What up, Tile friends? Welcome back to another Thursday Book Club. This book club is brought to you by the Phenomenal Profits Conference happening October 19th through the 21st in Houston, Texas. I will be there. My beautiful wife, Vina, will be there. Several of you will be there. If you want to go to a 3-day conference that doesn't put a lot of hurt on your pocketbook and delivers a lot of value, check out the Phenomenal Profits Conference. The link is in the show notes. You can join my wife and I over there. All right. Back to the book this week, which is the positioning, the battle for your mind. So this is the second week we're doing this. We're going to go over chapter 6, 7, and 8. Chapter 6 is titled Positioning of a Leader. Chapter 7, Positioning of a Fowler. And chapter 8, Repositioning the Competition. Last week we covered chapters 1 through 5. This week we'll do 3 chapters. To position your company, you must take into consideration both your strengths, so where are you strong at, what do you excel at, as well as your weaknesses. Where do you need to improve? Really do that SWOT analysis of your company and yourself. The same analyst, the same way you want to analyze your strengths and weaknesses, go ahead and analyze your competitors' strengths and weaknesses. That way you kind of understand how to position your company in the marketplace. This is the things we learned about in the first 5 chapters. Positioning is going to assist you to not only attract, just customers who are going to purchase from you one time, but also, the clients who they come back, they continue to purchase more and more tile from you, more and more products. And this is really what we covered this last week, so that's all I'll say about it. And, if you want to know more about it, go check out the book club from last Thursday. Chapter 6 we'll get into right now. This is called Positioning of a Leader. And again, last week we learned about companies like Avis and 7-Up. So they were not leaders, but they were kind of the second on the ladder, the second run. They were number 2. In fact, that was Avis's claim to fame. We are number 2, and we try harder. And 7-Up said, we are the on-cola. So in other words, they were positioning themselves against their competitors in a very healthy way, a way that really boosted their sales. And we talked about this last week more. But a lot of you are saying, I don't want to be number 2, Luke. I want to be number 1. All right. Well, let's talk about it. How do you position yourself as number 1, as the leader? Well, of course, the easiest thing to do that would be to be the first person there, the first company to the marketplace. However, you might say that's impossible. Well, is it really? Now, think about this. When somebody searches for a tile installation company, who's the first one they find? When they ask for recommendations, who's the first one they hear of? See, all we're talking about here is leaving an imprint on that potential client's mind who wants to buy tile and attempting to get there first and foremost, and then look really good, right? And talk to them in a way that they want to be talked to, reassure them. They might never even go for that second and third estimate if you do this correctly. So that's the quickest and the best way to be number 1, is just to be number 1. And, we gave examples over the course of time, but as the good book says, to the writing of many books, there is no end, and everything that's been written about has already, you cannot, I forgot the scripture, but you cannot write something that hasn't been written about, was the gist of it, because it's already been written about. This company's already been done it. You think you got a brilliant name, a brilliant brand, and then you find out somebody across this country or across the world came up with the same brand and the same name, practically using the same colors, and maybe they look like you too. So the point is, we're not all that different, but how do we want to position ourselves to succeed, to leave that impression on folks' mind? 2 successful companies, and again, the importance here and the emphasis starting out in chapter 6 was on, if you want to become number 1, become number 1 by being there first, whether that's a Google search engine or literally doing the first, introducing the first product like porcelain panels or some other new product to your market that's not available to a certain subset of the market. We're talking about niches. Of course, when Luke Miller's talking, he's talking about the riches in the niches. So To prove this point, it gave several illustrations of successful companies. Maybe they're neck and neck. One's doing $1 million, the other one's doing $1.1 million, and then the other one does $1.2 million. Well, the year that company pulls ahead and does 10% more, 20, 50% more, starts doing $1.5 million, $2 million, boom. Then they're on that momentum, and they will not be dislodged from being number one, potentially for decades. So they were just emphasizing here in this book that the power of being number one, the power of getting ahead is really going to build your company, put your company in the lead potentially for decades again. It gave an illustration. I wanted to quote it here and let you read this. Excuse me for breathing in that mic. It says, now, I don't understand this illustration. I'm not in the flight world. I'm not an airplane pilot, if you can believe that. But it takes 110% of rated power. Now, I Googled rated power. I spent 10 minutes doing it, and then I just gave up. Maybe there's a pilot out there who can explain this. But it takes 110% of rated power for a jet to gets its wheels off the ground. Yet, when it gets to 30,000 feet, the pilot can ease the throttle back to 70% and cruise at 600 miles per hour. So here we go. From zero to flight takes 100%, 10% of their rated power. I don't know that rating. I don't really know this world, but I can imagine that, hey, you're going full throttle and then you're in the red is kind of what I'm thinking is like you're in the red, bring it back down to the green, but it has to be in the red for a certain amount of time. And that's the way I took that. Now, you might feel like that, right? You might feel like that airplane who is in the red for maybe months and maybe some years while you're building your company. But guess what? You shouldn't be like that forever. If that plane kept going at in the red, it's going to go down. Eventually, you might get high really, really fast, and you might get really, really large as a company. But eventually, if that engine burns up, not good. So what are some strategies for maintaining that leadership once you put the work in, once you've done 110% of the work, and put 110% of your effort into it? Well, it went into talking about some things, what not to do. So do not continue to repeat that you're number one. And the reason it talked about this was, the fact that your prospects probably know you're number one already if you truly are number one. So you don't want to talk about it. If they don't know it, you either haven't built that leadership position in the prospect's terms, maybe in your terms, you're number one, maybe in your industry, maybe you legitimately are number one. But if they don't know you're number one, they don't want to hear you say you're number one, just flat out. And again, so what can we do instead of this? Well, it talked about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola came out with a strategy. They didn't say we're number one in sales, we're the best-selling soda product. They said we're the real deal. We're the real thing. That was a very successful advertising campaign for this company, Coca-Cola. We're the real thing. This covers a lot of ground. It really does. It almost triggers a memory in your mind. Maybe the first cola you ever had. The real deal, baby. Almost like that first love, right? And so that's what we want to do is just, remind them, hey, here's the deal. We're the real deal. With Coca-Cola, that worked. I'm not saying that would work with you. But you want to cover all your bets. So this was a subheading, said covering all bets. Often I thought this was interesting, and I've seen it, and I'll talk about it here in a minute. A leading company, one that's leading in sales, is going to end up losing their edge, losing their lead, because they're going to ignore the new guy, the new kid on the block. They're going to poo-poo him. Hey, I don't even need sound pad. All right. Back to the topic at hand. But the point is, hey, if there's a new product, and I do have to tell you folks, this is a very product-based book. So we're talking a lot about Coca-Cola. We're talking a lot about things, right? But what are the lessons we can learn here? Well, it happened. This very same thing happened to Kodak. And this wasn't in the book. This is something I read and heard years ago. But Kodak, if you're my age or older, you remember Kodak was number one in film. In fact, it's almost like one of those things. Hey, did you get a Kodak? You go print out your photos. Back when we used to print them out, the disposable cameras were all the rage. Back, people younger than me, much younger, we used to buy disposable cameras, and they would have like anywhere from 12 to 36 photos capability in them that would store the photo. You bring it to your Walmart, you get it printed out, blah, blah, blah. Kodak was number one. They should still be number one in photography. What the hell happened, guys? This is a good story. Now check it out. A young man who was an entrepreneurial spirit who was working for Kodak as some sort of, blue collar type job. He had a white collar idea one day and he took it to his bosses because he loved working there and he was all happy. He's like, hey bosses, I got this new digital camera, DLR, very digital camera forward. It's brand new type of thing. They said, poo-poo on that. You're too young. You don't know, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? He took his business elsewhere. Boom. Guess what happened to Kodak? Down the hole they went. History proves it because they poo-pooed that young man. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen it happen more than once in my life. Now, the power of a product. What happened was they said, no, 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 no. Our power is because we're Kodak. We have this really cool little thing that's worked for over a decade. We sell the people the camera, then we sell them the prints, and half the time they took crappy photos. Oh, well, not our fault. So they had a really cool product for a lot of times. Guess what? Somebody came out with a newer product, but it's not really about the product, especially with us service-based business. It's not anything about the tile you're installing. If you don't believe me, just think about it. A lot of people can install tile better than you. Did I trigger anybody there? So the power of a successful company. What makes a successful power company, Smarty Pants? It's it's what they deliver, right? It's the experience they sell. And I was wrong. I read this wrong just a minute ago. I'm not going to edit it out. I should have read what I wrote here. The power of the product is actually the thing. A company thinks that their organization or brand is actually the thing that makes them successful. Hey, we're Kodak. We don't need anybody else. We don't need anybody else. We don't need a new product because we're Kodak. Well, it's actually the product that would have kept them in business today, and it was their ignorance about the new product. What happened was a young man who was working for Kodak came to Kodak and said, hey, I've got this new product. It's a digital camera. Let's go in on it. Can you fund it? Can you support it? I've got these legal contracts. It's my idea. Well, he took his idea elsewhere when Kodak poo-pooed his idea. To this day, Kodak, don't know much about them. Don't really hear about them. They're probably either bankrupt or, on their way to kind of, just cruising along in the, they found their little area. But they're not what they once were. So the power of a product is really the power of a company. A successful company comes from the product they deliver. Yes, your tile installation has to be pristine, but guess what? A lot of people can do pristine tile installations. Hopefully I didn't trigger too many of you, drive you off the road right now. But let's face it, when you think you're the best, there's always somebody better. And so, yes, it comes from the tile installation, but it's really the experience, because on a local level, yeah, they want to hire whoever's the best, but they really want to feel good about having you in their bedroom. I was talking to my friend Ben Santos the other day. He said, look, I asked people, hey, when it's in their bedroom, if it's in their house, it's already personal enough. They're going to be gone all day. They have strangers in their house. You put it in their bedroom next to their lingerie drawer, all that stuff. They really want to feel comfortable with you. Yes, the product matters, the experience, the whole package for a service-based companies. This was talking a lot about product-based businesses, like, if you're selling apples or whatever, hot dogs. So stop relying on yourself solely to run it, because you cannot deliver a great experience, even if you're the most amazing, even if you are the best tile installer in the country or in the world, you still are going to have trouble delivering an amazing experience from the start to the finish unless you kind of embrace some help. Whether this be subcontractors or employees or, administrative type people to take up the slack where you're not really so strong. And so in chapter 7, we talked about positioning of a follower. So can you position your company to be number 2? Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Avis was number 2, 7-Up had a different position. So you can find different positions because after all, what works for the leader doesn't necessarily work for a follower. Why? Well, when a follower just copies the leader, the book describes this as a Me Too response. And that was really, quote for quote there. I really tried to read that one for you. So don't allow on just yourself, to do that. What you want to do is, start working into a turnkey business. This is why you want to start working into a turnkey business because you cannot rely solely on yourself to run it. This is actually why I'm so excited about the Phenomenal Profits Conference right up here. Excuse me. The Phenomenal Profits Conference, the number one thing they do is, yes, they teach you how to run your numbers. The theme is profits. The theme is numbers. That's why this is such an impactful one. In 3 months, they're going to have another one. It's not numbers. It's not profits. So this is the one for profits and numbers. But what they talk to you about is putting systems and building systems and hiring people and getting your point. The whole Howard Partridge's main kind of goal with his small collar, blue collar businesses that he helps is to get them profitable. Yes, but turnkey, get them turnkey. So that's what we're talking about. It goes along with the book. I thought I would mention it. And then we move into chapter 7, positioning of a leader. So positioning of a leader, again, I already said what works for the leader doesn't work for the follower. So when you want to talk about positioning of a follower, you kind of want to talk about some different things. And there's some reasons why products fail this chapter went into. The follower who attempts to beat the leader at his game, is going to spend way too much valuable time and energy focused on that leader. Think about it. If you focus too much on your competition, I know I told you earlier, understand your competition, but there's a difference between understanding your competition and just focusing on them and just getting in that tunnel vision, because then you might have a really tough time thinking about your business and your clients if you're thinking about your competitor's business and your competitor's client. Now, here's a saying. Now, I want you to listen for this one right here.
Cherchez le chrono.
I'm not French. I can't say that as well as she could. Let's hear it one more time there.
Cherchez le chrono.
Cherchez le créneau. Okay, what is chercher le créneau? Chercher le créneau, that is a French saying that means look.
Cherchez le chrono.
Look for the hole. All right, how do I look for my hole? To find that hole, you must have the ability to think in reverse. You got to think different than everybody else. You got to be willing to go against the grain a little bit. If everyone else is going east, maybe you should go west. Hey, it worked for Columbus. It worked for Columbus, right? He found his hole. He found his créneau. And so there are some different créneaux, which we talked about in chapter 7, the high price créneau. And this is really talking about, hey, you can be high priced if you want to be. There's a position out there in the market, especially with the flood of cheaply made products today. Our society, I don't know about you, but I'm really kind of sick and tired of products that don't last, products that are overpriced and cheaply made. I like products that last a long time, especially when it comes to clothes, things I'm going to be wearing, the bed I sleep in, the shoes, certain things I like. I like wood over plastic, in most cases, different things. So don't be afraid to be the higher price guy. And this is a problem in the industry. I'm going to trigger, again, and probably some of you are triggered. You can't go too high. You're ripping everybody off. Okay, you're thinking about greed here, which, yes, you're right. Greed is wrong. Greed is bad. Bad greed. Don't get that confused with just building a company that's a high price company. That's a price positioning thinking there. Yeah, you can be the highest priced tile installer in your area. Why not? Charging high prices, it's not necessary. And I'm not telling you guys who are in business 1, 2, 3 years to go out and just raise your prices and you're magically going to have like amazing clients and amazing jobs and amazing designs. You might not even know how to install tile. I don't know. But it's not the quickest path to getting rich, charging those high prices. You got to do some work first. You got to be first to establish your high price position. So is anybody else number one and you're kind of just getting into the business? They've been in it 10 years and they're like, we're number one. We're the highest priced guys in town and we deliver. Might not be the best strategy. So but the good news, most people are doing the opposite, right? They're going east and I want you to go west. So you might be able to be number one in that category pretty easy no matter where you are. But you're going to have to establish that position early on. You're going to have a valid product story. In other words, why the heck are you so high priced? And the third thing you're going to have to do is exist in a category, sell something where consumers are receptive to a high price brand. You know, that's the secret to establishing your high price. Number one, establish your position early on with a valid product story, and combined with a valid product story, I wanted to say, in a category where consumers are receptive to a high price brand. You do those three things and why not be the most high? I don't know. Highest price. I don't know. You know, establish your high price, you know, before you get on the phone with these folks, though. They should be calling you expecting a high price. That's why my friend Ben Santos, when I was talking to him about this, he said, yeah, I ask my clients if they've seen my website, if they've watched my blog, if they've watched my videos, if they've watched my social media, because I say, I want you to know about me and what we deliver. We do things different. He tells them, he puts his prices on his blog. He puts his prices on his website. He puts his prices on YouTube. He wants people that call him and knows that they're going to be much more expensive Hamilton tile than the local Georgia tile installer. And tell me if I'm not mistaken, but I have a feeling there's a lot of low price tile installations in the state of Georgia. They want to be the opposite. They've worked hard. Jason Hamilton's worked very hard to not only, learn how to deliver the product, but then combined with the partner Ben, now they get the marketing involved and they're really able to do things that most people won't. Well, what if you don't want to be the high price, find that high price hole? Well, you can find the low price position. This can be a very profitable position. I don't talk a lot about this because I don't know a lot about it. I was never a commercial installer. I never really worked in volume. When I did, I dabbled, didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't for me, the high pace, the competitive attitude. But I've highlighted several commercial installers over the years. You can find them like Malcolm Campbell in the podcast. And of course, they are in the Facebook groups, and you can go get that information. So, what's a trap that people fall into? The everybody trap. This is when most companies are going to reject the whole of finding their.
Cherchez le chrono.
They don't think it's necessary. They think, no, the riches are not in the niches. I'm going to do everything for everybody. And I'm not dogging you if you do that, but it might be a trap for you if you're really trying to find your hole in the market. So don't do everything for everybody, in my opinion. Chapter 8 talks about repositioning the competition. And repositioning the competition, again, might trigger some people, but I'm just relating kind of what the book talked about. If you cannot find your niche or your hole or your créneau, you must create one. You've got to create your niche. And that's the best way to do that is to reposition the competitors that occupy positions in the community's mind. And so for this strategy to work, you must say something about your competition that causes the prospect to change his or her mind, not about you, but about the competition. Again, not trying to trigger anybody, just relaying some information from the book, because I think like you think. Now, again, this was about products, a lot of products. Hey, we're 7-Up, First Coke, blah, blah, blah. Not so much doing that in the tile industry. So the good news is we got to kind of filter through and understand how this applies to us or doesn't apply to your business. You can do this with ads. You got to be careful when attempting to reposition your company against somebody else. Just coming out and saying we're better than our competitors, that's not repositioning. That's only going to make you look bad. The good news, once again, in our industry, it doesn't take much to be number one. Marketing, be found online. Let me say that. It doesn't take a lot to be number one on Google for a tile installation company in your area, because not a lot of people think like this in our industry. And that smells like opportunity, which smells like money to me. I don't know about you. Everybody's going west. I'm going to go east. So you got to think differently. You don't have to talk about your competitors, because the good news is in the tile industry, you're not really competing with anybody. There's a lot of niches to find. There's a lot to, I was going to play that song again, but forget it. I'm going long again, but we're doing better than last week. So don't think about talking about your brand too much, in the tile industry. Just go ahead and publish what you are all about and talk to your clients. talk to them about, what it is that your special, unique services are all about and why they kick ass. You don't have to mention anybody else in this industry, again, because most people are not saying a word about their company on the internet. They might be in the Facebook groups. They might be in here. You might see them talk a lot about themselves. But when people search on Google, who do they find? Hopefully you. And if you get a Happy Tile Guy site, we can help you do that. Or maybe you're doing it all on your own, like my friend Ben Santos. But he will tell you he had to put about 40 hours a week on top of his job into his website for several years before it started working. But congratulations, Ben. You've done better than most people. That's it for this week, 25 minutes. Thank you for listening. Once again, if you want to go to the Phenomenal Profits Conference, check out the links in the show notes wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. Tile friends, I love you. Stay positive out there. There's a lot of nonsense in the world. A lot of people saying a lot of crazy things. But I want you to stay positive because positivity brings and breeds results and success. That's all I got. What are you doing? We'll talk at you later, Tile friends.